Welcome back. Breaking tonight, Russian state media is reporting that the former president of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, has died aged 91 after a long and serious illness. That's according to the Central Clinical Hospital in Moscow. Of course, we played that famous Margaret Thatcher moment speaking about Gorbachev. Here's, of course, the message that Ronald Reagan, the US president, sent him in 1987.
There is one sign the Soviets can make that would be unmistakable, that would advance dramatically the cause of freedom and peace. General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Megyn Kelly, wow, 1987, years of great hope in terms of the relationship between the Soviet Union and the rest of the world. What do you think is Mikhail Gorbachev's legacy?
You know, Dan, first, you can't look at that moment without getting the chills, knowing how it would end. And as an American, I look at it and think, my God, I miss that kind of leadership over here. You know, Barack Obama came into office and telegraphed weakness. He went on an apology tour around the world for America. Meanwhile, Americans were over here saying, what are you apologizing for? Don't apologize on behalf of our country. We now have a president who can't string two words together. Trump was a strong man, but didn't understand diplomacy, you know, in terms of handling our allies in a way where they would, our friends, in a way that they would want to work with us. So it's been a long time since we've had a leader like Reagan, and he was the perfect man for the perfect time against a guy like Gorbachev. I mean, the friendship that they formed is really one of the key reasons why the Cold War ended. You know, it was a series of 40 letters between President Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev where they became actual friends after Reagan had called them the evil empire. And then they got to know each other, and it was private. It wasn't for the cameras, and it wasn't on Instagram. It was a behind-the-scenes attempt to actually forge a relationship, and they did become friends. And Reagan was later asked many years later, do you still consider them the evil empire? And he said, absolutely not. No, it's a different time. And I think it's just a story of humanity and how, despite nuclear weapons and media and previous rulers who wanted very different results, two men tapping into their humanity and the understanding of what could happen if their worst natures prevailed, found their best natures, and set the world on a different course. I mean, I understand the position we're in right now with Russia and Ukraine and so on, but you can't dismiss the progress that was made by Gorbachev and Reagan in those years.
It's going to be fascinating to watch, Megyn, how the death of Gorbachev is greeted by the Russian people. Because, of course, Putin has been very successful with his propaganda thus far, but it does seem to be faltering a little bit, according to the statistics that I've looked to, showing that Russians are increasingly switching off the Ukraine war propaganda. Do you think the death of Gorbachev is going to be a really bittersweet moment for Russians? Because, of course, as I mentioned before the break, you've got Gorbachev, he was the great Western hero who even starred in that Pizza Hut ad. And all of a sudden, you've got Putin, who is breaking Russia off from the rest of the world.
I maybe with some old timers, but I do think, you know, I've been to Russia quite a few times over the past few years and interviewed Putin quite a few times as well. And I do think even now the Russian people love Vladimir Putin, and they don't love him for himself necessarily. They love him because he stands up for Mother Russia. and he doesn't let Russia get bullied in their eyes. And they love a strong man. They do not like weak men over in Russia. And so, I mean, I'll just give you one small example. When I was over there getting ready to interview Putin, his right-hand man looked at me and I said, I've got some very, very, very tough questions for him. And his right-hand man said to me, a fiery Putin is a good Putin. And what he was trying to say is the Russian people love a fiery Putin. They love him at his strongest and, not angriest, but just most robust. And so the Russians don't look at him the way we do. And it's tough to sort of look at the way we see Putin and transfer that onto the Russian people. They admire him. They think he's restored the strength of Mother Russia, and they're more likely to give him the benefit of the doubt on some of his messaging than certainly any of the Western media is. It's not to say nothing creeps through, but their access to the free internet is much more limited than we would like and that we're familiar with. And they've had a lifetime of indoctrination into believing, in particular on Vladimir Putin, that he knows best, that he loves the country, and that he'll do right by Russia. So I don't know that. I'm sure they'll pay homage to their former leader, but I don't think it'll change the way they see their current one.